there's a lot of ways that you can cheat your way to success. Like I could have done it a number of times within Violet. You know, it's so critically important because you don't know what's going to happen down the line. Like you make one kind of questionable decision that brings ethics into question, that could blow up the whole company in a year in ways that you'd never imagine, right? So I hold it very high. Like you need to maintain, you need to treat people well, and you need to do it right. You can't cheat your way through it, because if you think about it with a long-term vision in mind, like it doesn't matter if you get to next month, you need to get to 5 years from now, and any questionable thing you do now can bite you before you get to 5 years.
You have a productivity hack you can share with us?
Let's see. So one of my founder friends created the company LifeAt. Essentially, it's a productivity tool that you can put on your computer. It has like a Pomodoro timer. You can kind of like create a whatever type of workspace you want, like a picture or a place or whatever. And then, any kind of like productivity tool that you'd want, they have, and you can put on there. And what I've found is when I want to go into like hyper focus mode, put that on one screen if you have two screens, and then put what you're working on over in this screen, and then it's a really great tool to help focus. So yeah, LifeAt, worth checking out.
So what's your message to someone who has like a really big idea, they've not had acted on it yet? They know it's going to work, they just haven't done anything with it yet.
Say that again. What's my advice for that person?
Yeah.
Take the first step is the hardest part. So I think that's a very common thing, because I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of engineers that have ideas, and you have your notebook and you have your stuff written down. And I think people are afraid of the feedback that it's not a good idea, right? Like you think it's a good idea, you think it could work, and so it's like, oh, cool, I'm smart, right? I got this. I could do that if I wanted, but I don't need to. And I think really it's actually a fear of kind of like failure, fear of disapproval. And so the best thing you can do is actually tell somebody about that idea. Like, hey, what do you think about this? Because you're not giving anything away. You're like, nobody's going to steal it. Nobody's going to build it into a company. You're the only one that's going to do that. You're not going to tell like a spy. You're telling a trusted friend, right? They're not going to steal your thing. So tell somebody that's not your mom and is not going to be like a cheerleader, but is going to be like, oh, that sounds dumb. What are you talking about? Right? It's like, really? Why do you think it's dumb? And then, if you give them your full shot about why you think it's cool, and they're just like, yeah, I don't see it, then maybe it's like, take that feedback. Okay, well, I'll talk to one more person, and if I'm crazy, I'm crazy. I'll move on to the next thing, right? But like, the regret's going to be you have your list of stuff, you never did any of them down the line, right? It's like you can, and I think the more you do that, the more you filter through your ideas, the more ideas start to pop up, right? So yeah, you take the first step, talk to somebody about it, get their feedback, and if the feedback's good, then you got to try it, right? You got to commit to yourself, like, I'm going to tell somebody, and if they think it's as awesome as I do, like, do the first step, build, 3D print it, prototype it, code it, whatever you want to do. If you have the idea, typically you have some knowledge or ability to go do like a rough prototype.
Like no one says, I'm going to build a nuclear rocket with no knowledge of science of nuclear rockets, right? You have some kind of some minimal background in the problem.
Exactly, yeah. Or you at least know there's people you can find to help, right? Because not every founder is a technical founder. Some people have really good ideas and they can't build it, but they know what needs to be built, right? So then it's just, finding people that are willing to help you out in a co-founder, or just like a thought partner type of mentality up front.
So what's something you've accomplished in your life that you're very proud of, but it's not public knowledge? Like no one knows about it except for you, maybe close family, friends.
Interesting. I'm not thinking of a good one off my head, but I think, the thing that I'm most proud of in my life is my kids. So I'm a father of an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. That's in startup world. That's I think it's probably more common than people think, but it's not talked about a ton, because what I've experienced is sometimes it's looked at as like a distraction, right? It's like, oh, you can't work as many hours because you have commitments to your family or kids or these other things. And that's true. But for me, what it does is it acts as this kind of like positive force in my life that allows me to bring my whole self to work when I go, right? And I think, that's when you're stack ranking your important things in life, right? That's at the top for me. And I think that's important to say, and for other parents that are startup founders to hear that, like, yeah, there's plenty of us, and it's fine to talk about, and it's fine to be open about, and yeah, it's something I'm proud of, just like having that be my priority in life, even though I have a company that I give my all to.
So I can't remember if I got this from your bio or from LinkedIn or someplace else, but it said, build Violet technology into a product that has proven to be the most effective at eliminating pollutants like viruses in the air. Like, how do you prove that? Like, do you have stats something, or how do you prove that?
Yeah, so we did a few things up front. So we did independent third-party testing. And so in this space, what that means is you aerosolize viruses in a chamber, and then you turn your device on and you see how quickly it removes effectively all of them. And then the good thing about that is it can be a comparison test against other devices. And then we've kind of blown other products out of the water in that type of test. And that's the criteria of how well does it kill viruses? Okay, viruses in the air, go, right? And so we did that, and that's kind of a head-to-head comparison test. And then we also did a university study and said, like, okay, that's great, but can it prevent transmission of disease? And so we set up this whole study where COVID-19 is here, and there's essentially open flow, and then we have a control where there's no virus killing technology, and the disease transmits every single time, as you expect. And then in the study, you turn on the device and you test if there's any transmission, and very robustly across the board, there was no trace of the virus over there. So kind of like completely stamping out transmission. And so and that was a study that hadn't been done either, right? Just a different way of cutting data. Like, great, you can kill it, but does that mean you don't get sick? Yes, in this case, it does. And so that's kind of the robustness we did early on to validate that, like, as a technology, this works. Now, as a product that we need to market and educate and get out to the world, that's the next challenge, right?
So how have you convinced like these facilities to use your products? Is it a kind of marketing plan, or how do you have you convinced them, especially in the early days when no one knew how good your product was?
Yeah, so I mentioned up front, one of the mechanisms we leaned on was grants. And so instead of saying, hey, you should go buy 10 to 15 of these and outfit your whole facility, we said, hey, get one of these through a grant, put it in your facility, test it, get your data, get your understanding, and then come back and talk to us, right? So it's kind of proving that it worked through use. And kind of like a land and expand type of strategy. You get one, and then you come back and you get more. So that was one mechanism. And another was, in our specific markets, like especially in elder care and healthcare, there's trade associations that are heavily relied on. And so what we did is we got all our evidence and we shared it with scientists within kind of these associations. And then when they were like, oh, this checks out, like you've met all these wickets, they were then willing to go talk to their members and help us to, provide validation to their members, right? Because like, if I go tell you my stuff's the best, you're like, sure it is, right? But if this person that you trust over here has already validated everything, and then they tell you that this is the best product compared to the other ones, it's much more likely to be believed. And then the next thing is like, okay, fine. Do they have a budget to buy it? Maybe, maybe not, right?
And y'all have like 5 patents?
Yeah.
Think about the process of, like, first of all, why get a patent? Does that really like drive the business forward some kind of way, and there's a process of getting them?
It's interesting. I think the value of the patent is probably down the line more. So if you believe that you have a technology that can turn into a big company down the line and you don't patent it, you might prevent yourself from becoming a big, important company. Because once you become successful and once you do make it big, if it's not protected and patented, the big company down the street can be like, oh great, we can do that with no consequence, so we will, right? If you never make it big, it won't matter, right? Because it won't be worth stealing, or not even stealing, won't be worth just selling it themselves. And then the other piece of it is if you do require funding, if you require venture capital, angel investment, they're going to want to understand why nobody else can do this and what your specific differentiated value is and why it's protected, right? What's your moat? Patent is a form of a moat that, you know, is kind of table stakes in a lot of cases. Like if you have a differentiated technology, why would you not have it patented? And if you go into that conversation and you could patent it, but you haven't started the process, that's a red flag, right? Because why would you not?
Is the process like hard, easy, or just depends?
If you're non-technical, it'll probably be difficult and you'll require help. But there's patent attorneys that know how to do this, and patent attorneys typically are engineers and are technical, and they, you know, also know the science of patents. And so what I'd say is it's not difficult because you can start with a provisional patent, which is kind of like a smaller condensed version of the full patent, and it's really a placeholder of a date. And so you can still do it with a patent attorney because you can still shoot yourself in the foot if you just scribble some notes on a piece of paper and say, here's my provisional patent. And then when you go to file the patent, they're like, well, you actually can't claim the stuff you want to because you didn't do the work up front. So you still should work with a patent attorney, but I would say there are a number of firms that are willing to do it on the cheap the first time. And it's because it's just like a VC that's like, you know, I'll sign these 100 people because I expect one to hit. A patent attorney wants to get people in the door working with them because typically if you're an inventor or you have a lot of ideas, you patent this one, you're probably going to have a few more down the line, or you might, right? And so that's what they're banking on. And at a certain point, you're going to be paying full price for these patents. So yeah, you know, I've used some good patent attorneys that help me understand the process, and I followed that pretty much every time where you file a provisional. You have 1 year after that date to go file a utility patent or non-provisional patent. And that's the time you give yourself to figure it out.
Do you have any other patents you're working on right now?
Not actively. I have a few kind of things that potentially could be, but yeah, not right now. What we're doing right now is the stuff that we have recently patented. We're working to try and commercialize that and bring it to market.
So you mentioned like elder care facilities. Are there any other like demographics you're going after besides the elder care?
Yeah, so education and kind of like childcare is an important one. When you look at who's the most impacted by bad air health indoors, old, young, immune compromised, right? So elder care, education, and then healthcare is on there too.